for the third period. So algorithm. So how many steps you have written? This much of code. Only this is what from one step. Two step is there. Third, fourth, and fifth is this, and seventh step. So now your server is listening on this socket, and server is you have written the code to allow the clients 10 number clients. It is up to you. After that, now client is listening on that port. Okay. So then after we need to do what? So come in the last session, see how we have written the same code I have written. Na? Okay. So same thing I have done here. Socket created, socket name I have a socket underscore. This family socket type. Okay. This is the loopback address, port number. Everywhere I am using the object name here. Okay. By that object name, this method dot operator bind, and this port, host and port kept here. Now after that, listen. Server kept on listening mode. 5 connections allowed. Next. So see, if you want to get, because server is in listening mode. So if you want to get any printout statement, okay, on which port and which IP address server is listening. So if you want to see this type of print statement, you can improve your coding like what you know. So you write like this algorithm. That is what algorithm is a statement. You need to generate in your mind a statement. Okay, print statement on which port and address server is listening. If you want to write like this. So this thought you generated in your mind. Print statement on which port and address server is listening. Okay. So this is this statement, algorithm statement you have generated it. As per that, you need to create print. Okay, print statement. You write syntax. I told you that it is display, this statement to be displayed. Na? So you write syntax, what you know. Server is listening on port number. Okay, server is listening on address, first address. Okay, then after you put that address. What is that? Address is word host. Then after comma. Here again, this is what port. Okay. Comma port. You write the port. Then what happened? Try to understand. You close this one. Okay. So here what happened? Server is listening on address. This will be printed. Okay. This will be printed as a string. After that, at this place, host, that host address will be taken. Okay. After that, port will be printed and port number will be taken. Okay. If you run this code, what happened? Let us see. So see, so your code is executed. Your code is executed. See, server is listening on address 127.00.1 and port number 14 is this port. The server is looking for listening on this port, and you have gotten this much of printout statement. Satisfied yourself. So, and this statement, so sometime what happened, this port number may be changed and this address may be changed. Okay, this is the loopback address. After that, whenever you use this, suppose this code, so your IP address of that local host, your server running on which machine, that IP address will be taken. So you are here fixed, you have written. So that moment you need to write the code like this. you need to use here formatted text. Formatted text will start with the F, and then after double quotation marks, you write like this: server say, server is listening on, okay, address, okay. Now you keep the flower braces here. Within this, put the host name, host. Then after, okay, okay. Next, put one more flower braces, port. Okay. Now try to understand the same thing. This printout, I want to get this printout same with this formatted string. Formatted string in Python is what customized string means. As per the programmer, he wants to get this printout statement like this. It is my customized statement. So here, every time, whenever your client address, server address changed, okay, so that address automatically added here. Port number is changed. If any port number, if any port number has been changed here, that port number automatically put here. So now here, see, server is listening, okay, on same address. This is called form. So whenever you write the formatted string, don't keep the distance between the open brace, sorry, open quotation marks. F and that is what quotation marks. There is no any gap, white space accepted here. Some students have asked that, sir, we can keep the single quotation marks here. So try yourself. There is no any issue. You can write single quotation mark. Let us check that. If you keep single quotation marks, what happened here? You keep single quotation marks here. So then what happened? Now come down. If you run this code, so you are getting, okay, no issue. So there is no any space entertained here. F and you will get invalid syntax. Invalid syntax, try to understand. It is underlining here. Invalid syntax means you are not following the grammar rules, how to write the code. The code is syntax as per the syntax. Syntax means what F formatted string. There is no any white space accepted here. Syntax. Okay, now it's okay. So you can write the code as per this. Now you comment this line. Okay. Now come down here. Next word. Algorithm. As so this is over. Formatted string I have. You need to develop that. After that, up to this, our server, it is looking, it is listening on this particular port and address. Okay, that socket. Okay. Now one loop I have created. Why? So because how many connections you have provided, this much of connection you have provided, 5, 10. So every client wants to communicate with the server. Every client wants to communicate with them. So that moment, that loop not to be terminated means data continuously being transmitted from the client to server. Client from the client request is being sent to the server every time. One client sending, another client sending. There is no any ending until the client will not stop. Until the client will not stop. Okay. So this much of code, so I will finish within almost it is what 9:58. Okay, I will keep somewhat time. Okay. So next is what loop. So next you want to in your mind generated that okay, 5 clients, 10 clients are there continuously. They want to send the data. So that moment that loop to be rotated. So I want to keep that while loop. So while after that infinite loop. True means what? Whenever this method I have used means now it one connection to be established between the server and client. One connection to be established between the server and client. Once connection established between the server, by this method, connection will be established between the server and client. After that, once connection is established, this method returns a new socket of client, because this is the server socket. Okay. client socket. These both will intercommunicate with each other. And address of that client. Address means IP address of that. Okay. So you theoretically you have studied. Now you need to write the code. So first here you go here and you write from here. Write the code like this. Here you write here. Create a loop. Loop that is infinite. Infinite means until infinite. Infinite means uh, whenever user client want to terminate. At the client side, we will write a program. If client wants to terminate, stop, quit, out. This type of terms, whenever he client uses, that moment loop will be that client will be disconnected. So create a loop, finite uh, while loop. Okay, you write algorithm. Then what? Next word. If to make the connectivity connectivity between, so establish a connection between client and server, make connectivity, otherwise establish a connection, establish connection, connectivity between client and server, client and server. So for that what, how can we create? So simply for this, you use while keyword here, while, and then true. It is whenever I write while, it is indicating me. So in artificial intelligence of this IDE, integrated development environment, a Visual Studio designed by Microsoft, it is clearly helping me that you accept this one. Okay. Now, oh, what do you mean of the true? True means whenever connection is established, that is true. So how the connection is established? First you write the servers underscore socket. That is what server underscore socket. It is indicating me this method. Okay, it is clearly so if you don't know that in your mobile, this main motive of my class is that initially I started to teach the programming in mobile. In your mobile, Android mobiles, you can write very efficient programming. At the starting, whenever I started this concept, 1,000 pages of coding I have written in the mobile, Android mobiles, okay, and that code was sent to so many students, whether anybody has attended my classes or not. Just if anybody simply send his number, I send that code 1,000 pages. So if anybody has don't have the laptop, don't freeze yourself, don't discourage. Without laptop you can write very efficient coding in the mobile. So everything I have given in that text I have sent to you class concept. You please download, that is what, PyDrive 3 for Python, and JVDrive for Java, C coding for C. So the apps I have given, you can download the apps in your mobile and you can write the coding. Okay. If you provide your number, I will send all 1,000 lines of code. Simply WhatsApp me and I will send that code. Okay. And that is not voice based. You will get only text based. Okay. After that, code was taught in the computer and recorded in Zoom and sent put in the computer. That is what YouTube. Now come down. What we have as per our algorithm, create a loop infinite. Infinite, I have written the code. Establish connectivity between client and server. For this, one method I want to use here, dot. This method, accept method. Okay. You click on this. Method always must have, that is word, brackets. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of this? This method establishes the connection between the client and server. Okay. Once connectivity established between the client and server, this method returns a socket. That socket is whom socket it returns? Client socket. And client address. Client address is where the client is. What is the IP address that client? Okay. Now you put some variables here. Suppose anything. Suppose if you write client. Okay. Client. Okay. Comma. Okay. And address. Simply you write like this. What happened? Now whenever this method returns socket of client that will be stored in this variable. You simply you write client underscore socket. This is what client underscore SKT socket. Understood that? Why it is giving error? So if you keep dash na, so Python interpreter will not admit you to write the variables like this. So that moment you keep underscore here. So this is the variable. So that client socket, okay, client socket details will be stored in this variable, and IP address of that client will be stored in this. You can keep these are variables. You can keep XYZ, but I told you that for meaningful, this is client socket. Address is what? IP address. Like IP, you write, okay, IP address. But shortly we understood that. Okay, no address. That will be stored in these two variables. So now connection is established as per your this is what your algorithm. As per your mind generated error, I need to establish a connection between client and server. Okay, by this method, everything I am using the methods here. Listen method, accept method, connection established means server accepts the incoming clients. If incoming clients want to communicate, so by this accept method connection will be established. Okay, now come down. Next, see everything is like this. Okay, here I have changed that, but variables you can keep anything. This is what address, client address, socket underscore server, accept this method. So means I have written waits to establish connection with the client. Accept method returns a new socket of client and address of client. So that they address and client socket details and address will be stored. These two, you can keep these variables as per your change. Next word. Now, whenever client details received and the details stored in this variable address, so you can get a printout. You can get a display on the screen. So connection client connected from this address. Okay, you print. So you write code like this. You write the code like this. You write. Okay. Now print. Okay, you under this bracket simply you put a statement, that is what string type of data, client connected from which address. So if you want to keep that is what formatted string, put F, client connected from. Okay, after that put flower braces, you keep address. So now what happened? So client is connected from which address? That IP address will be displayed. Client connected from address, this address. So now that address is what? Now see, server is listening on address, this address and port. Now client is not connected. But why client is not? You have not written the program for the client side. No? That's why. Try to understand. So whenever you complete your program server side, and same whenever you write the coding for client side, so run the server side, after that client side. So you will get the this printout, client connected from address. That is what, because your loopback address, na? Both the client and server they're being connected over the same IP address. Understood that? So now okay. Next. Now that is okay. After that, what happened? Try to understand. This is over. This statement I have written for to display the connectivity from which address, IP address client is connected. Because out of this 5 or 10, okay. Now next one more, that is loop I have written here. That is what while loop for what? For data connectivity. So that data, how much of data to be received from where it is being received? From client socket. The socket from where? I told you that na, whenever connection is established, that moment by this accept method, this accept method returns socket of client. Okay, from client socket, how much of data is being received? The data limit I have put here 1024 bytes that will be received by this receive method, and that will be stored in a variable data. You create a variable data, and that data will be stored in this variable. Okay, but this data that is being received from the client, that moment you need to use the method dot receive method. Okay, so this same socket reference you need to write refer in the client side. Here you are writing in server side C underscore socket, but in client side you are writing for simply socket. Otherwise you want to create client socket. No. So if you are writing client socket here, in the client side also you want to write as it is. Otherwise you will get the errors. Okay. So now write the code here. Where is that? So now what? C underscore socket. I am referring the that is what socket. This is client socket. Okay. I want to client socket dot. Which method I want to use here? Okay. Receive method. Okay. That receive method, by that method, I want to receive the data from the client. Okay. Now within this, what is the limit I want to keep? 1024. 1024 bytes. Now you total this, you keep this, whatever the data receiving from the client, okay, in bytes, you store that data, create a variable. You simply data. Now, the data that is being received from the client, okay, by this receive method, that will be stored in this variable. So now, whatever the data being received through this socket, client socket, now that is stored in where? This variable. Understood that? So for this, you need to write what is that comment here, na? Comment here. You need to comment here like what you know. Algorithm. Algorithm means what? Loop is created, connectivity is created. Okay. After that, once client is connected, you want to display that client address. Okay. Connect to server. Okay. Now you need to comment like this. Store algorithm, store data in a store received data, received received data in a variable. Store received data from client in a variable. Where simply I have written variable. Okay, where means variable. Store received data from client in a variable. You change the sentence as per meaningful. Received data from client store in a variable. Okay. So variable created. So how I am receiving the data by this method, RECV method. So this is the byte size I have kept as a parameter. Okay. So as per this algorithm code written, this method you can get from the okay. Okay, now it is okay. Now almost his time is what 10 o'clock. So 2 lines of code is there. So I will explain here. I don't want to write next code. You need to say. So now data, this much of bytes of data that is being. Okay, next. Once the data received, okay, once data received, that data received from the client, that is sent back to client. That is called send back, otherwise echo back. Okay, client from client server is receiving the data. That data, same data that is being sent back to the client. That is called echo back. So for that, why? Because client needs to confirm that which type of data, whether whatever data I am sending, that is being sent properly, correctly. So if I am receiving the same data, so I simply feel that okay, my data is that is being sent properly. So for that, this method work send all method, that is client socket, and pass this whatever the data stored in this variable, the same data will be passed to send all method and sent to the client. After that, you close this socket of the close the socket of not server. So because server always will be running, only the client will be closed because server never be closed. Amazon.com, Google.com, they will be running on 24 into 7. Client, whenever he wants to access the net, he will open his computer and he tries to connect with the servers. Okay, only that socket of client will be closed. Print statement connection with which address out of these five connections, which address is being closed now. So you need to develop the algorithm, as I told, discuss with every line, write the sentence, and this is what by practice and by studying of your material. And whenever you, as a student, if you are studying in your topics and if you are really very keen to understand all the topics, don't, you are not a time passer and you don't want to waste your time, really you want to become a good programmer, surely you will get all these things. So this is what today this class, why some students requested me, sir, I am not able to generate the logic, how to write the code, how to start, from where should I start? So this is as per the topic. Topic is what are the topic points are what, as per that points, how to from where should, which class will be useful, which class will support your class. Topic is networking. For that networking in Python, which module will support, for that modules which class you want to use for that, and then which methods you are using. One method here I have used it to bind the hostname port, here listen server to be kept on listen mode, and there here somewhat this is what accept method I have used to make the establish connectivity between server and client. Okay, here receive method I have used, that is for client side, whatever I'm getting from client side. After that, that same data to be transferred to the client again by send all method. Send all method. Okay, where is the send all method? This is the send all method. Okay, send, and the data I have passed as a variable. So almost this is 10 work left. Very nice to meet all of you whomever attending classes, and now I want to close this session. I will meet on Sunday again. As I told you, the classes will be conducted sharply every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sharply 8 p.m. I pledged with that these classes will be conducted up to my last breath. So, but I don't want to come back for the class because all the classes I kept in repository, YouTube. We go advanced topics, advanced Python, Java, C, C++, and AL. So I have a lot of time. I don't know how much of time I will be alive in this earth. Up to my last breath, every moment will be spent with all of you, and surely I promise that the classes will be, I will give a lot of knowledge to you. And my classes not only uh, I want to not only enhance the programming skills, apart from that I want to enhance the English communications, because a lot of MNC, they are expecting from the students at least they will speak in the English fluency. Because nowadays the students, they are not competing whatever the qualities expecting from the companies. That's why myself I felt very bad because so many students, they are not able to speak in English. That is, English is very compulsory. Okay, thank you, have a nice day. Jai Hind. I am going to terminate the session, and we will meet on Sunday. And if you have any doubts, and you send WhatsApp me there. Okay, okay, have a nice day. Jai Hind.